Hey everybody, and welcome back to Freddy Cooks International Soul Food. Today we're going to be cooking this big old hunk of meat that I found at Winn-Dixie the other day. Now mind you, I did not go into Winn-Dixie to get no pork roast. Neither did I have an ounce of room in my freezer. But who you think is gonna pass up a 6.5 pound pork roast originally priced at $25 and I got it for $7.63? Who you think gonna pass it up? Not me. Now the meat wasn't going bad at all. It was a nice fresh piece of meat. It did have quite a bit of fat going through it, but I like a lot of fat in my pork roast because it gives it so much more flavor. So guess what's for dinner tomorrow? You guessed it, pork roast. Stay tuned for the recipe. Now we're gonna do this in the crock pot, and we are starting with the crock pot on high, and I'm entering in about a cup, maybe a cup and a half of beef broth. You can use water, but of course, beef broth, give it more flavor. You can use chicken broth. I'm gonna add my seasonings to the broth under the pork roast before I even put it in there. So we're using Cajun seasoning. You can use about a half teaspoon of this on the bottom and a half teaspoon to a whole teaspoon on the top. I'm adding some onion powder, adding some cayenne pepper. We've got a little paprika going in there now. I'm gonna add some garlic salt. I didn't have garlic powder. I only had garlic salt, so I'm not going to use table salt. I'm going to use the garlic salt in its place because that stuff is pretty salty already. You only need one or the other. I'm also adding some parsley and some pepper. I'm adding a little turmeric to this. We've got some minced garlic, chopped or diced, really however you want to slice, white onion. You can use yellow onion, Vidalia onions, whatever kind of onions. I don't like to cook purple onion. I only use purple onion if I'm going to eat them raw, but do your thing. Now notice I put a little flour in the bottom, and that is to thicken up the broth a little bit, just in case you want to make some gravy for some mashed potatoes or gravy for some rice, what have you. This acts as a thickening agent to help you be able to achieve that all in this one pot. Now all of the seasonings that I added to the water, I'm just adding it to the top of the roast. Now I'm also adding a tablespoon of soy sauce. I normally like to use Worcestershire sauce. I didn't have any, so I'm just using soy sauce, but if you have Worcestershire sauce, use a tablespoon of that too. To me, the flour also gives it a nice hearty texture, or at least it does in my mind, but you can leave that out if you want to. Alright, so I've added my onions, I'm adding some parsley. Now, you could also put celery in this. I didn't feel like chopping up no celery. I don't even know if I had celery. I just decided to grab a celery seed, put over in there. You just want to do total about a teaspoon for the entire pot. Then you want to cover it and go somewhere and sit down for 2 hours, do some laundry or whatever you want to do, and come back to see what kind of progress we're making. Now this is not going to be done in no 2 hours. It's going to be tough still. You just want to come back to base it, get some of those juices going back through there. You're gonna re-pour the fat on top that's coming out of there. So you'll have a nice, tender, juicy pork roast. You're gonna have to cook this thing for at least 6 hours. I normally go for around the 7, 8, maybe even 9 hours, depending on the size of the meat. So if you want to eat this for dinner today, you should have started last night, okay? So go ahead and pull down some hot dogs or something so you can have some hot dogs and potato chips while your pork roast cooks. This is really one of the easiest recipes that you can do. It's cook a pork roast. You're basically done. You're just coming to check on it periodically just to see how tender it is and see when it's time to turn it off. Once it's done, once it's really tender and falling apart, that's how you know it's done. As you can see, this thing is not budging, it's not even moving, so we know it's not ready. We're gonna cover this sucker back up and come back a little bit later. 7 hours later, and here we are. Looking so good. Now, as you can see, it's starting to give a little bit. It's starting to pull apart a little bit, getting quite kind of tender. Now, I said I normally go for 7 hours, but hey, 7 hours has passed and it's still not falling off the meat like I need to. Now, after 14 hours, yeah, you got it, 14 hours, it takes as long as it takes. Don't rush your meat. After 14 hours, you can see it start to just fall apart. That's what you want. Now, you can see I've added me some potatoes and some carrots in there at the 14-hour mark. Once it starts to get close to done, then you can add your other vegetables, and here we are. Thank you so much for watching this Freddie Cooks International Soul Food. Don't hurt yourself, and don't forget to kiss your cook.